Hey guys, it's Quickie Baby, and this video is going to be an in-depth preview into the new up-and-coming STB1, that is the Japanese Tier 10 medium tank. In a nutshell, this is looking like it could be the all-rounder medium battle tank in the game. It's got fantastic DPM, it's got fantastic gun depression, it's got great mobility, and it's got pretty good armor. Stay tuned if you want to know all that you need to know about this new beast that's coming up. And if you have no interest in playing it, then maybe I can tell you how you can defeat it. So without further ado, let's take a look at some stats. So this tank has got 1,950 hit points, it weighs just shy of 38 tons when it's fully equipped, and has got a fantastic Mitsubishi engine, which gives it 750 brake horsepower. Now the chance of fire on impact is 12%, which means that you might be able to forego a fire extinguisher and use onigiri in your tank, giving your crew an extra 10%. Now the top speed limit in this tank is 53 kilometers an hour, which is on par with most of the tier 10 Russian mediums. It's better than the M48 and much better than the FV4202. However, it's worse than the Leopard and the Batchat. I'm just going to leave the Leopard stats up in the corner so you have something to compare, because in my opinion that's really what the STB1 is going to be fighting with. The STB1 is going to be fighting for the crown of the Leopard while still maintaining the flexibility of the FV4202. So your traverse speed is a brilliant 52 degrees a second, which means that you're really going to have the mobility to scoot around the battlefield. Now the armor on this tank is fairly controversial. We're going to go into more depth in the WOT tank viewer in just a second. On paper, it's 110 on the front, 35 on the side, and 25 at the rear. And its turret armor is 132 at the front, 132 at the side, and 37 at the rear. Now that's a hell of a lot better than the Leopard one. It's kind of the same as the FV4202, but let's go into the WOT tank viewer and take a look in some more detail. So here's the STB1 in all its glory. It's a rather lovely looking tank, if I do say so myself. Let's take a look at its armor models. So interestingly, the garage told us that the thickest part of the turret armor was 132, but well, that's not true. It's got an area of 248mm spaced armor on the front, right in the middle of the tank, where a lot of the shots will gravitate towards. If it hits here, it's quite likely to bounce unless it's a very high penetrating round. Above that 248mm area is an area of 116mm. It's very well angled. You know, it might still be able to bounce its shots. It's not paper thin, for example, like the Leopard. Outside of this, we've got 132mm, as we can see here, on the turret, which stops at a very funny angle. And interestingly, beyond this 132mm on the turret, it drops down to 67, as we can see here. And it does it the same on the other side. So what I recommend is that when you're shooting the turret, you aim half backwards, basically. Shoot the middle of the turret and backwards. And you will probably penetrate every time, because this is only 67mm of turret armor. That's not very good, even though it's very well angled. If you can't judge where half is, just look for this pin. It's basically where this pin is, and backwards. And halfway through the ammo box on the other side and backwards, and you'll decimate this tank. Now interestingly, there is a cupola on the top. It only has 80mm of armor all the way around. So if you can see this, you can take advantage of it. It's really not too prominent. It's not like, in my opinion, like an M48. Of course, there is this area of 37mm on top of it that you might be able to hit as well, but you don't really need to worry about that. Just smash it into the middle, and you're either going to break through the 37mm or you're going to break through the 80mm. I still don't feel that this is as prominent when you look at the undamaged model as the M48. Maybe it's because of this machine gun. Maybe the machine gun adds a bit of confusion. Maybe people will still take advantage of this from whatever angle you're at. But I still feel like the M48 has the bigger shoot me icon, if that makes sense. And maybe these periscopes will confuse people and they'll miss them. Anyway, let's continue the analysis. The turret armor at the back is completely negligible. The armor at the side is awful, and the armor at the rear is awful. One thing that's interesting is these tracks don't really cover the whole of the tank, so if you can shoot in between the tracks, you're going to decimate the tank. One thing that happened to me on the live server is an FV215-183 that was firing a HESH round went right in this gap, and it absolutely wrecked me. It didn't hit my tracks, so the HESH round basically just destroyed my tank fully. That's something you've got to watch out for on the sides, the fact that your tracks don't really cover the whole of your side armor. Looking at the front of the tank, we can see that there is a 110mm band that goes across here. That's not very thick. That's not very thick at all. And then outside of that is 80mm, although you can see that it's very well angled. And then interestingly, the side armor on the tank, as we highlighted in the garage, is a very poor 35mm. Realistically, this is not spaced. You just want to hit here. If you can hit along here, it's really going to go in. And really, the frontal armor is not very good for bouncing, apart from just bouncing troll shots if you've angled the frontal plate very well. If you angle the frontal plate very well, then there's this whole area here of 35mm armor that you'll be able to decimate. So really, what we're seeing here is that the STB-1 has got a fairly nice frontal turret, although it does have that terrible cupola on top of the tank. But its frontal armor, although it could bounce off of this 110mm the bar that does run across the front, its side armor is just horrible. Really, you want to keep your turret facing towards the enemy. It is very long. You don't want to give them the size of your turret, especially beyond about here, as they will be able to just ping one in through here. And you want to use the fantastic gun depression on this tank that I will go into later, force the enemies to shoot probably like this at your turret. You could achieve that with the immense amount of gun depression this tank has. Still, if we're considering that the STB-1 is trying to compete against the Leopard has 70mm of armor. It's not going to work, really. If you see a Leopard as a gigantic box of a tank, and you just ping one in at it, and it generally goes in. Just to give you an idea, we're looking at the FE4202 here, and this is the area of 125mm armor on the FE4202. Cupola is very prominent, as you can see, but it at least is thickly angled. The cupola on the FE4202 is 196mm of armor. So it can bounce occasionally, and at least your ring round the tank is 196 as well. The STB-1 cupola really is a significant weak point. A lot like the M48 cupola, as you see here, with a big just I shoot me 50mm of armor on the M48 cupola. It's just really garbage. Really, if you hit the M48's cupola, it's so prominent. It's just going in. Whereas at least with the STB-1, I feel like the cupola is a bit more of a challenging target. So anyway, I went into quite a lot of detail about the armor there, but I think it's very important. Medium tanks at tier 10 are very important to me. They're probably one of the most fun things about World of Tanks. And I hope I've given you my opinion on basically the STB-1's armor. That at least it's got some armor at the front. I mean, its side and rear armor is garbage for all intents and purposes. The tooltip in the garage really does not indicate just how good this is. 132? Yeah, right. We've got 250 spaced armor on the front of our tank, and that can allow you to troll shots. It can really allow you to troll shots at range. So now, let's take a look really where one of the greatest strengths of this tank is, and that's this 105mm rifled gun. This is an absolutely fantastic 105mm that fires 7.5 rounds a minute. That is higher than any of the other tier 10 medium tanks that use a 105. Look at the FE4202, it fires 6.45 rounds a minute. Look at the Leopard, it fires 6.67 rounds a minute. The M48, when you get that top 105, fires 6.82 rounds a minute. The E50M with the 105 fires a very lowly 6.25 rounds a minute. In fact, Japan has taken it back from the Russians that the STB-1 will have the gun with the highest DPM of any of the tier 10 medium tanks in the game. And when you combine this with the fact that, surprisingly, the STB-1 has also got the equal highest, I should say, gun depression of 10 degrees along with the FE4202, that means the flexibility of this 105 is just astronomical. Now, the accuracy is pretty troll. It's 0.36, which means that you might be missing some of your shots, but the 2.1 second aim time should allow you to at least get to your full accuracy before you make your shot fairly quickly. I can't say how I like this gun enough, really. It's basically what the M48 used to be like in patch 7.5. Now, many of you may remember before the M48 was nerfed. That's the kind of DPM that this tank has. Combine this with an excellent turret traverse of 42 degrees a second and a brilliant view range of 410 meters, and you really might have the most all-round medium battle tank in the game. But anyway, let's take a look at some gameplay. So here we go, we're playing in STB-1. You can see the nice cloud effects going across the map here. I'll just zoom across for you. Wait a minute, where have they gone? Clouds there. Oh, what that bush just became a beacon of light. There's a hopefully bugs they're going to even out. But you can see these clouds around here moving across the map. Wow, that's pretty cool. But this isn't about the new video effects they're adding in to World of Tanks 8.10. This is about the STB-1, and look at this beautiful tank on this Korean map. That's right, and has invaded Korea. And it's on now, it's on now. Okay, so the STB-1, look at its mobility. We're way ahead of the Object 140 and the AMX-50B up the slope with a top speed limit of over 50 kilometers an hour. you really do have the opportunity to motor around. Now I see a scout advancing. I want to try and avoid fire from the Waffenträger. That's not something that you want to have shooting at you. Fortunately, we're dodging his shells. And we shoot the scout on the move. Tracking him. The rate of fire allows us to reload very quickly and put a shot there into the 5916. He pulls back just in time. And I decide that I can't be bothered with him. I'm going to continue down on my mission. And by staying there for longer, I give people such as this guy and the medium tank that was just there an opportunity to dig in and outposition me. Do have a chance to shoot this mouse though. Able to put a good hit in there. The aim time in this tank is not bad at all. And look at this rate of fire. We're loaded very quickly, ready to unload more shots onto the target. Alright, so I love this position on Sacred Valley. It's really nice for poking. And we're going to play against a Waffenträger. Alright, so there's the first shot. Look at this gun depression that we have. Got great flexibility to poke the target. Just check out this rate of fire, guys. Look what we're doing to the new tank that was brought in 8.9. We're devastating it. The rate of fire is simply incredible. I know that I've got him pressured. I could have been firing HE ammo at this guy, if I'm honest with you. But it's okay. Clean takedown thanks to the 10 degrees of gun depression on this absolute monster. The gun depression is the same on the STB1 as it is on the FV4202. So if you guys are an experienced British medium tank driver, you're definitely going to love to have the gun depression in this tank. And we really did make that Waffenträger Alfie 100 look pretty silly. So now I'm looking for a way to navigate down this slope and... whoop. Are we going to go down here? Okay. Yep. Uh-oh. No, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, great physics there. I didn't take any damage going down the slope. That's wonderful. So just look how fast the STB-1 is able to traverse around. Going along here, up this slope at nearly 20 kilometers an hour, even though it's very angled. Down to only 13 kilometers there, but still the mobility on this tank is excellent. We've spotted the artillery. Able to hit him once. And now this is where this tank, you might notice the accuracy comes into play. The first shot went perfect. Whoa, next one donked. That one bounces. That sort of went where I aimed it. But the rate of fire really allows you to dominate your opposition. We're able to take out that tier 10 artillery very quickly. We're looking for a shot on the Waffenträger. I know that they have a T92. I really don't want to get shot by the T92. He's already picked up 3 kills. Thankfully, because of the gun depression, I know I can go over undulations like this. Allows me to get the drop on my opponents. And there he is. Fire one at him clearly on the move. And it doesn't look like he's interested. And he really couldn't do anything. My rate of fire is so good that we're able to take him out ruthlessly. Now, my rate of fire is good, but I would have killed that guy quicker if I'd been in one of the Russian tier 10 medium tanks, as an example. Because they have 320 alpha damage. Let's just save that discussion for a little bit because we've got another Waffenträger coming from me. So I'm just using the excellent gun depression to be able to bully the hell out of this guy with my amazing rate of fire. And see, the thing is that he has an autoloader. So, and this is very important. I'm just gonna pause it here for a second. This is the difference between autoloaders and not autoloaders. He has an autoloader. So once he's fired his shots, and I can just basically close the distance, attack him, and kill him at will. Okay. So that means that anyone who's using an autoloader really wants to be sure about those shots at these kind of engagements. When you can control an engagement against an autoloader and turn it into like a ridgeline fight, then really you're doing yourself a lot of justice. Autoloaders are very powerful when they can consistently fire at you and almost guarantee penetrations, i.e. if I was there and he was there and we were just shooting at each other, the autoloader would be in his optimal environment. However, because I can use these ridge lines, it's very hard for him to hit me. And because of what we discussed in the garage, the camera bugs out again, because what we discussed in the garage, this whole area here is nearly impenetrable unless he wants to fire premium rounds at me. Of course, some of his shots might go in if they roll high with his standard ammunition, but it's very likely that he's going to have to use premium ammo and hit me about here where I'm not very angled to pen me in my turret. So let's continue. So we're looking for a shot on another Waffenträger who's aiming at me. We're able to nail him. I decide to repair my tracks because I really don't want to get hit by him right now. So I'm kind of locked down here. I kind of didn't want to advance, but I noticed that the other Waffenträger has bottled out and he's running away. So I'm going to go on the hunt. Looks like that guy was AFK. Sucks for the enemy team. Here's a test server. And just look at the mobility of this tank. The traverse speed is excellent. I really like it. And we decide to YOLO at the end there for the trolls. So there you go. The STB1. We're able to play a viable tactic on the Korean map. Use our speed to relocate quickly. Use our gun depression to outplay autoloaders. And use our extreme rate of fire to really surprise the enemy with the amount of DPM that we can put out. And that is what the STB1 is all about. So let's just have a brief look at the post-game stats. So the base experience that we got for that game was 1,662. We made 73,000 credits. And we had to pay 8,000 for our repairs because we lost a bit of health at the end of the game with that YOLO dive. Now we fired 18 and we only missed 1. So that gives you an idea of what you can do with the 0.36 accuracy that the STB1 has. Although I wouldn't really say that we got to see very long range engagements in the STB1. I played this tank a lot on the test server, and I will tell you that in long range engagements, that 0.36 accuracy can be very frustrating indeed. However, in these kind of situations, which are short to mid-range engagements against tanks with precious little armor, we're able to really use that beastly DPM, be able to do 5,367 damage. I really do like the STB1. I think it's going to become quite a powerful tank in 8.10. I think the DPM is pretty crazy, but the tank does have problems. Its side and rear armor is absolutely garbage, and its frontal armor is only really capable of bouncing the lower caliber shells. As we highlighted, there's only really one band of relatively strong armor on the front, and then the upper and the lower plate, although they're very well angled, are quite thin. However, this tank undoubtedly actually has some armor to troll its enemies with. Whereas, for example, with the Leopard 1, if it hits you, really it's going in. Now, I think importantly that the STB1 does have some implications for certain medium tanks, and let's just think through them. Okay, the STB1 really doesn't threaten the Batchat. Batchat is a unique kind of tank, which is very fast, and it has an autoloader. However, the Batchat might be more afraid to engage tanks like the STB1, where it can use its amazing DPM to put shot after shot after shot into the Batchat, and it does have the speed also to chase it down. Well, not really chase it down, but more or less keep up with it. Let's think about the FV4202. Now, in my opinion, the FV4202 is probably the biggest loser in this situation. The FV4202 might have slightly better accuracy, but its DPM is a hell of a lot worse. And also, the main weakness of the FV4202, that top speed limit, is almost completely negated by the STB1. The fact that the STB1 has over 10 kilometers an hour better top speed limit than the FV4202 means that it's able to navigate the battlefield a lot quicker and really get to where it's needed to be able to take out the enemy. Also, the special thing about the FV4202 was that 10 degrees of gun depression. I'm not sure if it's fair that the STB1 also currently has 10 degrees of gun depression. The only thing really that the FV4202 has over the STB1 is slightly better mobility as long as it's not hampered by its top speed limit, aka its specific power ratio, which allows it to traverse up slopes more quickly. It also has HESH rounds, which, although expensive, do make it more flexible in some situations, but also make it worse in others. The HESH ammo on the FV4202 allow it to take out softly armored targets more quickly and to devastate heavily armored targets when it does have the flank or the rear, but it doesn't have that extra high penetration heat ammo to be able to blast through the front of, for example, mouse turrets. HESH is both a positive or negative, but the main way that the FV4202 loses, just to reiterate, is the fact that the STB1 now has the same gun depression as it. It has a much better rate of fire. It has a much better top speed limit by over a quarter. And importantly, the STB1 actually has a better turret, at least from the front, than the FV4202. I think the pattern is also a big loser. The pattern is almost the same as the STB1. However, the pattern has slightly worse gun depression by 1 degree, and it now has worse rate of fire than the STB1. Pattern is also slightly slower with regards to top speed. I think that the pattern and the FV4202 are really big losers when it comes to the STB1, because the STB1 kind of takes their strengths, aka the gun depression, but also takes the rate of fire. Now the Leopard might also struggle when it comes to the STB1, but I think that the Leopard isn't quite as big a loser as the FE4202 and the M48, because the Leopard still has that amazing, punchy, accurate, low aim time gun that at long ranges the STB1 really can't compete with. The Leopard's able to really target weak points on the enemy tanks, which is sometimes what you need to do, even at 300, 500 meters. Whereas the STB1 with its .36 accuracy really can't do that. Also, the Leopard does have an insane amount of mobility compared to the STB1. Now, if we're considering an STB1 versus a Leopard, I really think that the STB1 is going to conquer the Leopard because it can just waff in shell after shell, it doesn't have to be accurate, and it has much higher DPM. And it's also capable of pulling off bounces more consistently than the Leopard is. Now, when we consider the STB1 versus the Russian medium tank, the DPM differences are negligible between the STB1 and the Russian medium tanks. However, the Russian medium tanks really lack the gun depression that the STB1 has, which makes it much more flexible in certain situations. Also, the fact that the STB1 is as fast in a straight line as the Russian medium tanks, while not quite as fast as the Object 140, but at least it can keep up with the T-62A, means that that's another negated advantage, so to say. I'd say that the frontal hull armor on the STB-1 is about the same as the Russian medium tanks, but the STB-1 is kind of a bigger target, it's longer, and its side and rear armor is, in my opinion, more obvious than on the Russian medium tanks. The strong point of the Russian tier 10 mediums is the fact that their turret armor is incredible, even from the side, in my opinion, especially the T-62A. Now, the STB-1 has great frontal turret armor, but as soon as you get the side and the rear, it is fairly weak. I think that one of the biggest problems the STB-1 introduces is its threat to heavy tanks and to tank destroyers. Now, the STB-1 can outmaneuver nearly every tank destroyer and every heavy tank in the game. And the fact that it also has insane gun depression, which means that it really doesn't have to show you its hull armor, means that the STB-1 is a massive threat to tank destroyers and heavy tanks. Now, the fact that you also give the STB-1 really high alpha damage, as well as having that great rate of fire, the DPM is just a massive threat. And the DPM differences between the STB-1, for example, and a heavy tank mean that the STB-1 can quite often put in 2 or 3 shots for every shot that you put into him, or at least to have a chance to put into him, because he gets to dictate where the engagement happens and where the pace of the combat will proceed. If you're engaging an STB-1, I feel that the best way for you to do it is to really engage him at long ranges. Because if you engage them at long ranges, it really allows you to take advantage of the fact that he's got .36 accuracy, which is it's poor for a medium tank at tier 10. Alternatively, if you're in a medium tank, really try and bully the STB-1. Try and take advantage of his abysmal side armor and rear armor. And if he doesn't angle his armor at all to let you engage him on the side or the rear, just shoot through the front. It's not very strong at all. But whatever you do, don't let him use his rather awesome turret armor and gun depression to dictate the pace of the combat. And be very afraid of the fact that he is very likely to be reloading faster than you if your tank has 105. But if your tank has 100mm because you're a Russian medium tank, then you should be firing 2 shots into him for every shot that he fires at you. But be careful, because if you misjudge the timing, then he's going to put 2 shots in for every 2 shots you put in, and you're going to be trading really badly with him. So my overall conclusion of the STB-1 is that, oh, I really like it, I really do. It has pretty darn good top speed. It has amazing rate of fire with still having that punchy penetrating gun. It's got insane gun depression. It has a very thick turret mantlet that actually expands over a large part of the turret. It's got the view range, and its weaknesses can be hidden. I will be picking up the STB-1 quickly, and I honestly think that it'll probably become, for my playstyle, probably the best tier 10 medium tank for me. You guys will know that I really like the FE4202, but I work within the FE4202's weaknesses, and that is its rate of fire and its top speed limit. The STB-1 takes these weaknesses away, and it doesn't really add any huge gaping holes compared to, for example, the FE4202 or the M48. I can't recommend this tank enough, and if it stays as it is, I will be picking one up as soon as I can. However, I think it is quite likely that in its current state, it might be changed on the test server. But stay tuned and I'll try and update you as quickly as I can if that becomes the case. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please consider rating it down below. I'd really appreciate it. And tell me what you think in the comments about the STB one. Are you worried about this tank? That it sort of takes on quite a lot of strong points but doesn't really have that many weaknesses? Or do you think that it's coming into the game balanced? Also, what do you think about the fact that this is a 1970s plus tank coming into a game which is really focused around World War II? Let me know what you think. Anyway, as always guys, thank you so much for watching. Think about checking out some of my other 8.10 videos. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.